Hello friends! Welcome back to the channel. I will be the first to admit that I have been struggling with sewing motivation this year. All my original plans haven't happened for one reason or another. There's a June cosplay still on the back burner, anything involving corsetry is out of the question for a bit. I had honestly expected to spend the last few months on Regency tailoring, and yet my enthusiasm for that was completely murdered by how much I hated Bridgerton Season 2. Still bitter about that. Also, you know when you can just sense that there's an impulse decision on its way? You don't know what it's going to be yet, but you're going to do something rash, impulsive, and ill-advised. As I'm sure you all know, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And just because someone should do something doesn't mean it has to be me. But I was either going to convert half my houseplant collection to semi-hydroponics. Look, clearly neither of us is happy, so can you just tell me what you want? Or I was going to sew something really impractical that I had no use for, and then this happened.
Replace all the beads with the safety pins.
Or those like spikes.
Yeah, yes.
It's like motorcycle punk Moiraine. Now
okay, that would be nice.
Okay, I guess we're doing this. A lot of the hard work for this design has already been done, so I settled on using a second-hand leather jacket for the bolero and just downloaded Hazariel's excellent pattern to use as a base. Instead of tooling the design into the leather, this leather is too thin and already dyed, so it wouldn't have much effect. I traced the star lines of the original pattern onto the back side of the leather and used this as a guide for attaching fine metal chains. This was extremely time-consuming and somewhat labour-intensive. I also attached studs, a lot of studs, by poking a hole with an awl big enough to fit the back of the stud through, and then screwing the spike into place. Rinse and repeat approximately 99 times. I bought a pack of 100 and I kept adding studs until there were no more studs to add. I decided to attach the shoulder details with glue because while this was fiddly and messy, I couldn't face visible top stitching. If you are also doing this, use better glue than me. Is this even in focus? We just don't know. So the bolero is mostly together. Yes, this is waiting on more glue, better glue. It's waiting. It's waiting. Where's my picture? I'm looking at this dress and I don't want it. Which is to say, I don't think I have a use for another needlessly extravagant black gown. While this is a ridiculous impulse project, I don't want this to be a ridiculous impulse project that like never gets used again. That doesn't feel like a good idea, so I'm looking at alternative. And I think what I want to do, based on pictures that I have got of this dress, is to actually make it a tunic and a skirt. I might make it culottes. I think culottes could be a lot of fun. But definitely the top half is going to be a separate tunic, which means I'm going to slightly change the design. It only has like the tabard part in front. I'm going to tweak it so it has it front and back, which it does not on the original design because it's a dress. I also don't want this to take a million years, so I'm going to use a commercial pattern for something kind of similar. I think this one pattern will do because it's got the princess seams, high collar. The style lines are not exactly the same, but it'll do. But the sleeve is wrong, so I think I'm going to use this other pattern for the sleeve. Big question is, am I going to do the ridiculous sleeve head detailing? I think I have to. Okay, fine. That's what we're doing. I've been trying to get better at flat pattern drafting as my understanding is pretty basic. It's still pretty basic, but the closet historian has taught me that you can add style lines any way you like as long as you remember to add seam allowance, and now I must use this power for evil. So as usual, because I didn't plan this properly, this is taking longer than anticipated. I wasn't happy with, like, the jacket was fine, but I wasn't happy with how it was structurally. I have glued in some buckram and we are now gluing down the edges. Very annoyingly, these little clips leave impressions in the leather. That velvet ribbon is attempting to protect it somewhat. We'll see if this works. I'm sure a bunch of people were like, hey, Ash made a whole video about learning how to do leatherwork. I'm sure Ash will have used those skills in this project. Look, don't judge me. I got carried away. But anyway, once all of these edges are glued down, should be done this weekend, I think it's going to be done. I was aiming for fine, but actually done is what I want. I did not stitch these seams terribly well, so I may go back and reinforce those. Or I may not, depends how much I care. Other side. Meanwhile, over here, work continues on the tunic. It all went together super fast, as I knew it would. I need to make a decision about the bust shaping in the front and whether I want to take that out. But right now it's fine. Put a beautiful invisible zip in the back while all the pieces were separate, and it was still easy to do that. Only, of course, to realise that that invisible zip was too short and I could not, in fact, get it on. So that got ripped out and we have a new zip. So I'll have to put that into a finished garment. I also, in a fit of enthusiasm, put the collar in, forgetting, of course, that one of the big things for me with patterns is that my neck is not in the place it's supposed to be. I can't explain why. Potentially I have a curved spine, which feels like the kind of thing a doctor maybe should have picked up on, or maybe I'm just a weird shape. So you can probably see, literally why I got an iPhone. At the top here, where I've clipped in the seam allowance, that is where the top of the neck should be and where the collar would sit. And here is the actual base of my throat, where the little notch between your collarbones is and then your windpipe comes up. That's where that is on me, which is like an 1.5 inches lower. So we're gonna sort that out. These sleeve heads are a bit poofier than others what I have seen. They're gonna be covered up by the bolero, so I'm not worrying about it too much. And then the final thing I did when I tried it on was, of course, so I didn't try and guess where the hip fins should go. I just cut the side pieces a bit longer. I have now marked on one half of one side where that's going to go. I'm going to copy that front and back and then copy it onto the other side. And then I need to make the actual fins, which could get interesting. I kind of know what shape I think I should be using, so we'll work with that. The audio on this is going to be shocking because I haven't bothered to mic up, and I need to film and edit a video this weekend, so something tells me that I'm not going to get all that much done on this. I'm home alone this weekend, so naturally I've ordered takeaway and I'm just going to turn into a goblin. It's 6 o'clock on a Friday and I'm already in my pajamas. Bodes well for the rest of the weekend. Right, having said I wasn't going to get very much done on this today, I have actually got loads done. I've sorted the collar, I've put the new zip in. It's okay. Invisible zips are not my strong point. I have realised that I could have taken the fullness and the sleeve head out of the style lines on this shoulder piecing, but that would have required forethought and pattern testing. We're not doing that. So what I did pattern test though is I had a couple of goes at the hip rolls, and after testing out a couple of different ideas, basically decided I was massively overcomplicating it, and so I'm just going to cut it as a pretty much straight fisheye kind of thing. May not be the most graceful or elegant of hip rolls, but it's the simplest, so we're going with that. And I have also trimmed the hanging tabardy pieces so that they're the right length, and I can now just put a backing on them, and I need to hem the sleeves. I'm really happy with the sleeves. They are surprisingly fitted. So I've got the tiny scraps that I have left over from cutting this out to do the hip roll pieces, and I should have enough to have a couple goes if I get it wrong. I've almost finished gluing the bolero, so that should be fine in a couple of hours, which it's 11 o'clock at night. Will not be happening today. I think that's my sign to call it a night. Okay, yeah. 'Cause tired Ash makes mistakes. Hello. So, this is looking pretty good. It needs some shaping. I'm not actually sure how I'm going to go about that. We'll figure something out. I think it needs a couple of finishing touches, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. The tunic is inside out. The tunic is also done. I literally just hoovered, come on. Inside seams all finished. Still not 100% on this bust shaping, but we are making do. Overall, pretty happy. Fits quite nicely. Zip is okay. The first one I did was better, but we all know how that went. Which brings us on to the final piece of the costume, which is the trousers. This is what I have. It's a little bit more see-through than I was hoping for, but we'll make it work. I've got 3 meters of this, and I'm just hoping that's enough. What I think I'm going to do is basically a circle skirt and then add a divided part to it, so they'll be really, really full and hopefully look like a skirt. It won't be a skirt, they'll be trousers. And before anyone is like, oh, secret pants, they're called culottes. They've got a name, there is a word for them, they're called culottes. Culottes are usually cropped, but not always. It's one of those things that I completely understand and at the same point irrationally. It bugs me. Yes, good, awesome. Crack on. Hello. Why do I never plan things? It's because when I do plan things, this is what happens. In a shocking turn of events, I actually drafted out a pattern piece for these culottes and I don't have enough fabric. I will try and put some detail shots of this pattern piece in. It will be tricky because it's huge. It is a meter-long circle skirt to double my waist measurements with an extension for the crotchal region. And this pattern piece is actually only a quarter of the circle, with the idea being that I've only put the crotch extension on one side, intend to put the other side against a fold, and that way each leg will be one piece with only a seam at the crotch and a seam at the inseam, which will be covered by the tunic, so it will look almost seamless. Problem being is that this is enormous and I think it's going to take 3 meters of fabric per leg. I think I only ordered 4. So I have to make a decision, and this decision may be made for me. Ordering more fabric is not inherently a problem. This fabric was on sale, which means it was cheap, but it also means it was on sale, so there might not be very much left. So we're just going to have to see how that pans out and whether or not I can order another probably 3 meters of this fabric. Could just order 2 and piece on the leftover, but then there would be a seam in it. This is way too much attention to detail for a thing that I decided to make on impulse in the space of like 6 weeks. Okay, yeah, fine. Let's see if I can even do that. Hello. I can't work on the trousers until I get more fabric, and I can't get more fabric for a few... Where is there a spider in here? Yeah, I can't work on the trousers. The tunic is done. I have some small changes that I want to make to the bolero, but I can do that around and about. But I've had an idea. I was basically feeling like the bolero is very punk, but the rest of the outfit isn't very punk, and I don't want to like overly distress it because then I won't be able to use it for anything else. But what I can do is pin patches to it, which I think would actually work really well. I have a whole heap of t-shirts that I don't need anymore that I was basically hoping to use for another project. A lot of them are black, and the project that I have in mind is only going to use the designs on the front, so I can chop off the back of the t-shirts and then I have a whole bunch of 100% cotton black fabric that doesn't fray, and I need to decide whether I'm going to paint on it or whether I'm going to use bleach. That's what we're doing now. I did a test strip and decided that while the bleach was pretty cool, white paint gave me more of the effect I was looking for. You're over 20 minutes into this video now. I feel like we can be vulnerable with each other. I've never read The Wheel of Time. I didn't even get past the first episode of the TV show. But I do have a number of friends who had, so I asked them for quotes and imagery I could use for this part of the project, and I'm going to be honest guys, basically every single one of them said they either didn't remember most of the books, or that they regretted reading them, or, and I quote, "I am no longer speaking to the guy who insisted they get good eventually." What the hell is going on with this series, dear viewers? Have you read it or watched it? Why are people telling me that basically nothing happens in books 5 through 8 and yet you still need to read all presumably something like 7,000 pages to follow the plot? Are you guys okay? So I'm really enjoying doing this. Cat hair everywhere. I haven't done this sort of thing since I was a teenager, except obviously back in school we didn't use white acrylic. The ideal material was Tipp-Ex, typing whiteout fluid, which was always a bit spicy because we weren't supposed to have Tipp-Ex in school, which at the time I don't think I really understood, but now I'm like, yeah, that stuff covers everything and is indeed the perfect material for small-scale graffiti. It's also why we used it to paint on our bags. Fabric arrived, let's go. Let's tidy, and then let's go. The culottes, as previously discussed, are just 2 pattern pieces, 3 seams and a drawstring waistband. The only piece of relevant advice I have to offer here is to always baste your hems on circle skirts, or circles of any kind. It takes a million years but makes the eventual machine hem quick and easy. Of course, I couldn't very well make an entire punk rock outfit and then not fully reconnect with my misspent youth. It's been a very long time since the last time I did this. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to keep the YouTube gods happy. Follow me on Instagram if you'd like to make my cat happy. And in the description box you'll find a link to my Ko-fi page where you can leave a one-off or reoccurring donation to support the channel, and my desire to dismantle established power structures wherever I find them. Supporters get early access to my videos and possibly more stuff in future once I figure that out. Dream big, and I'll see you next time.